All right, people, what's going on? Welcome to another video. As promised, we're gonna do a little, um, I guess you could say like client analysis, prep analysis, but what kind of sparked this was the transformation my client Yuchen um, undertook on prep, and what we did between the last 4 or 5 days with peak week. A lot of people were kind of blown away by the transformation that kind of came to be, which, obviously if you've clicked on the video, you've seen the thumbnail, so you're kind of seeing it already. But I thought it would be kind of a cool opportunity to basically go through a client's prep, start to finish, and the process with that, kind of how I go through with coaching and, decisions that are made and how we kind of brought the final look to the stage. So Yuchen, he competed prior to us working together back in 2022. And he actually, interestingly enough, comes second to a client of mine. So kind of full circle. We're here now and we claim that first place, moved up the ranks now that he joined the team. So obviously super stoked about that. So we started back in December. He contacted me wanting to compete, and let's go to the Google album here. And this is the first photos that we started with right here. So you can see here front shot and then back shot. So obviously you can see good base of muscle, right? Great men's physique look, wide shoulders. Even in the off season, coming down to that small tapered waist, right? Good lats from the side, decent arms. So as far as a men's physique athlete goes, I'd say we've like checked the box of shape and structure. Um, Going to where we started 23 weeks out. A lot of people are kind of curious as to like how I determine timelines with clients, and obviously it is very person dependent. And I just want to like preface this video by saying this is specific to him and his situation. This is not a one size fits all approach at all. This is not a copy and paste. You can't just do this with your clients and expect to get the same result, because this is very specific to Chen and how his body responded to things and the decisions we made based on what his body was responding to. So, 23 weeks out, 174 pounds was the high that he was at. So, he had mentioned his last stage low, you can see up here, was at around 150 pounds. So, basically 25 pounds over stage weight at 23 weeks out. Now, if this was a first time competitor, I would be a little more hesitant to kicking things off and aiming for the show that we did. And you can see here actually show targets Ottawa Naturals June 15th. So we actually jumped in a show earlier than we originally planned because his body responded so well, which surprised me, not gonna lie. So 23 weeks out with assuming around 25 pounds to lose. Looking at his physique at last show around 150, he definitely had a bit more room to go with conditioning, but I think it could have been partially due to just not peaking properly and not having the fullness to like bring that conditioning out. So I assumed we were going to land around that 150 mark again. So with him having competed before, I did have the confidence that we were probably going to be able to make this work. If this was a first time competitor again, I would have been a bit more hesitant and said like, look, like maybe we need to look at a later timeline, because if there's one thing I can really like kind of drill home for people is that rushing, especially for a first time competitor, rushing to the stage is not a fun time. If you have, let's say, 25 pounds to lose and you're trying to do that in 12 weeks, you're setting yourself up for a rough time. You're going to have to diet a lot harder than potentially you'd have to if you'd given yourself more time. So if you have, 25 pounds to lose, I like to get, at least maybe a 30-week prep for someone to lose 25 pounds, right? Because even if you conservatively lose a pound a week, you're going to be well on pace. You can probably diet a little bit slower, which means you're probably going to lose, more body fat like at a consistent rate, and you're going to dramatically decrease your risk of losing muscle, which at the end of the day is the last thing we want to do. We don't want to, drive ourselves to the stage as quickly as possible and just lose. You don't want to just lose weight, right? You want to lose fat. So if you're um, crushing it and going fast and hard the entire time, losing, 2 pounds a week or whatever it may be for the whole freaking time, like you might lose some muscle, right? So um, let's dive on in here. So as far as where things started with him, you see here around like 2,900 calories. This was kind of based on what he'd been doing prior, and where I thought we could probably start around. There's obviously a million ways to determine someone's caloric intake. Well, not a million. There's a couple, but I find a lot of the traditional like equations and stuff, they're a best estimate. I've just kind of gone with over time what I've learned with people and what I feel like is the right call to make at the time. So this is with where I started them with. So we just started chipping away, and you can see as we scroll down here, right off the bat, we started to see the scale trending down, right? So you can see at the bottom here on these charts, the weekly average for his weigh-ins. So that first week, 172, down to 170, down to 169, and that's where, if you kind of look right over here above my head, that's when I kind of made the first real adjustment. So opted to drop calories down across 6 days and keeping that one high day in the week, and then sprinkled in some cardio. And then from there, we wanted to get a bit more aggressive, so cut down calories even more. And then, if I remember correctly, that's when things started to really roll for us. So, 168, 167. So now we're into February here. So if we go back to his photos, Yuchen was always on the money with getting me things and keeping them as consistent as possible. So, you can see here February 26th, which if we go, so you can see the abs are starting to come in now. If we go back February 26th, going down right here, 163. And, really, really efficient fat loss with him. His body seemed to respond like pretty readily to changes. We were seeing the scale trend down pretty consistently from day one, right? I was still making changes just because I wanted to keep the pace relatively efficient. But there was no point where I really saw this like hard stall and we had to start really pulling the big guns out. And then we come down here, and this is something that I don't normally do. I'm not a big cheat meal guy. I'm not a fan of just like throwing caution to the wind and saying like, "Hey, go eat ABC and just have fun with it." Because let's use for example the old burger and fries, and ironically enough, that's what Yu Chen was doing on here. But you know, at the start of prep, your hunger signals are relatively controlled, right? You can probably go and sit down. Let's use Five Guys as an example, because locally Five Guys is a pretty popular spot to go get a burger and fries. But Five Guys, they are on the money with loading up fries. If you've had Five Guys, you know what I'm saying, right? If you get a large fry, you're gonna get your container of fries, and then you're gonna get like a bag full of fries they just dump in. So at the start of prep, when your hunger signals are in a normal spot, you're gonna have a reasonable amount of fries and you're gonna be good. But as prep goes on and those hunger signals start to creep up and you get hungrier and hungrier and the cravings start to creep up and you're, oh man, I can't wait to have that cheat meal. Coach gives me cheat meal every Saturday. Every Saturday I get a cheat meal. I get to go to Five Guys Burger and Fries. It's a party. You are going to start eating more, even if you don't realize it. You're going to start, increasing the amount of food you're having with that cheat meal. And, on paper, still a burger and fries, right? But when we look at, the caloric intake that could potentially turn into, if that cheat meal was normally 800 calories, as you start to go deeper into prep, it starts to creep up because you're snacking more and you're having more of those fries, and it's 800 calories one week, and then a couple weeks later it's 1,000 calories, and then it's 1,200 calories because you're just consuming so much more, and then that's where you run into the problems of like the scale not dropping and the physique not changing, and your coach might be like, what's going on here? Like, why this doesn't make sense? And they could be pushing you harder into a deficit during the week, and then you completely throw that deficit out of the water when you go in for that cheat meal on the Saturday and completely blow it, right? And that's when you start to get into those situations where calories get lower than necessary, cardio goes higher than necessary, and it's all because you're just eating more fries. So now take all of that and you'll see here, replace meal four with a burger and fries. This is something that, if I remember correctly, Yu Chen mentioned he did before, and with how his body was responding, I had the confidence that this is something that we could use. It's a tool we could use that he was going to be intelligent with. And if his body didn't respond, this would not be something that we would do moving forward, right? If he had that cheat meal and his body wasn't dropping and all of a sudden I'm seeing things that aren't positive, then I'm gonna say like, look, man, we got to forego that and maybe we go to a refeed that's structured and a bit cleaner. So we start scrolling down and you're gonna see that that average 162, 161, 159, but you're seeing that replace meal four with burger and fries, replace replace meal four with burger and fries. And anytime we checked in and it was the conversation about, I want you to do this cheat meal, I would always say, I want you to do the exact same thing, exact same thing, exact same thing. And Yu Chen was always receptive and honest. And that's one thing that I will give him credit for. And any of my clients that are going through prep, that open communication and then that honesty and that structure is what creates success, right? There was never a time when he was like, hey, can I have this as well? Or, hey, coach, I ate way more than I should have. That never happened throughout this prep. So let's jump back to the pictures now. So what month are we in? So looking at March, and you can see here we started to make a call on adding in that earlier show. So March 18th, let's go back to the photos. You can see, we're getting some post-workout gym shots here, but you're seeing the physique really start to come together now, right? We're seeing that conditioning coming through, that split through the chest, the abdominals, um, really bringing that men's physique look. Even here, got him to throw the shorts on, and we're seeing that look that we're after, right? And this is, again, doing that weekly cheat meal, but he's not going overboard. We got a nice side by side here of where things are at. So April 4th, let's go back to the sheet. So mind you, he started around 175, so now we're about 156. So, you know, he was 150 on stage last time, and here we are in the 150s at 12 weeks out from when we originally planned on stepping on stage, right? So lots of time. We were not panicking. We were not rushing. Calories aren't obnoxiously low, 25, 2,400. We've got that cheat meal. You can see here cardio's 35 minutes, 5 times a week, nothing too intensive. So then it was like, okay, I think you might be ready early. What do you want to do? And there was a show in Sudbury, so 3 weeks before the planned show in Ottawa. I was like, you want to do it? Let's get maybe a warm-up show in, test some peaking practices, and then, really see how we do in Ottawa when we have some solid data. And he was like, hell yeah, man, let's do it. So we just kept going and didn't really press the gas at all. You're seeing that cheat meal is still here. That cheat meal is still here. The 2,400 calories is still here. And we're chipping away, right? 156, average coming down 155, 154, 5 weeks out, 4 pounds from previous stage weight. Let's go to the end of April, getting down in the real thick of it now. Okay, start of May. So May 5th here, which would have been 20 days out. And we're seeing that conditioning, right? That conditioning through the obliques, through the chest, through the arms. The look is really coming together. So obviously having the timeline we had, it has really paid off. Back photo here, like this is crazy. This is when I knew that shit was getting real, was this photo. I remember this set of photos he sent me and I was like, man, like we're in it now. You can see here detail through the back. I think this was after like a deep tissue massage or something, but really, really, really good. So 4 weeks out, again, didn't change anything. And now this is when it comes to, the look that you want to bring to the stage and having the time to get there and really bringing it in earlier than maybe you think. You can see here cardio over here above my head, cardio down to 4 by 25 minutes. So prior to that was 5:35. We dropped it down to 4x25, keeping the cheat meal. Right here, I did a slight calorie drop to 2,300. And then again, cheat meal. And then 3 weeks out from Sudbury, we completely cut cardio. We completely cut it out. His body, so if I go the beginning of May, so yeah, that's these photos here, right? Beginning of May. And I'm like, dude, you're pretty much like within striking distance. Like you're basically like a peak week away from being stage ready. So I dropped cardio, and that's something you can do if you're in a good spot and start to really freshen the body up. And that's where you start to see those different looks of guys that have, they're crashing themselves to the stage. They're pushing it as hard as they can the entire time, all the way up to the show, versus the guys that have, given themselves the time and they've just kind of coasted their way in and landed the plane smooth. You maybe drop cardio, and you'll see here, right here at a week out, brought food up to 2,400. So nothing too crazy, but upped his carbs, dropped protein a little bit. And so that is looking at these photos here. Yeah, like then it really started to bring him to life, right? We really started to see that physique come to life. Now this is where it gets fun. Okay. So now we're into peak week. Okay. So peak week, I like to plan basically the entire week. I like to have completely set up for clients, no guesswork, no questions, no second guessing. Well, no questions. Obviously, they're gonna ask me questions, but like no questions of what they should do because it's completely laid out for them. So start a peak week. He was 150 pounds, right? It's pretty much like his look on stage. The 21st. So let's go back. Let's go back. Okay. So I don't have any photos from the very first part of peak week, but if we go back here again. So this is the look that I believe I put in the thumbnail. And clearly lean, right? No doubts about that. He's clearly shredded, but he's flat as all hell. And that's okay. You don't need to be full as a house 24/7. And a lot of people get that wrong on prep. They chase fullness, and they sacrifice getting into true conditioning because they always want to be full. They always want to feel big, they want to feel jacked, they want to feel pumped up. And you just most of the time you can't do that. You can't get into full deep stage condition and trying to get to try to be full 24/7. Maybe you get a fullness and pump after a workout or after a high carb meal, but it doesn't last, right? So here we are. I'm seeing this and I'm like, okay, we're in a good spot. So let's go over to peak week. So with Chen, Sunday we did refeed. Okay, so again, this is all specific to him, right? This is not a copy and paste. You can't just take this and give it to your client because it's not going to work the same. But we did 350 grams of carbs, just shy of 2,600 calories on the Sunday. So basically, we're going to fill him up, and then we're going to deplete him down, make his body sensitive to carbs, and then really fill him up for the show. So water is 9 liters. I keep water high 99% of the time with all my clients all week. I do not cut water. If you're a natural athlete, don't cut water. Don't cut water. Don't cut water. You need water, right? You need water to transport the carbohydrates to the muscle cell to then give you that fullness and that really round, bubbly look you want on stage. So the problem is when you cut water, you're obviously inhibiting that process. So guys will do a big cheat meal the night before the show, but not drink any water and then wonder why they don't look any better. And then the day after the show, when they go eat a bunch of food, drink a bunch of water, they're like, man, why didn't I look like this on show day? It's like, well, break, dude. You didn't drink anything for 2 days before the show. So water is high all week, 9 liters all week. And so refeed 151, very, very minor bump in weight to 151.4. So his body basically like ran through that food. No problems there. Then we start depletion. So, well, I guess we start depletion Monday. So carbs went down to 170. which is low for him, right? Remember, we were around like 2,400 calories coming into peak week, and now we're down to just right around 2,000. So a decent drop, right? 170 grams of carbs, which is not low, low, low. I've had guys way lower than that. I've done way lower than that for a depletion. But for him, I didn't need to go super, super low because he was pretty much ready. We just needed to this week's like the cherry on top. So we ran that for a couple days, just Monday and Tuesday, right? 151.4, and you can see massive drop to 149 after that depletion. And then Tuesday, after that second day depletion, again dropped to 148.4. So now we're well below previous stage weight. Then Wednesday, I started bringing carbs in. Now, when carbs get introduced is obviously going to be very person dependent, but with him, I knew that we could get things going early in the week and then we could just assess from there. So carbs went up from 170 to 280, so right around 100 carb bump. I wanted to kind of see what that higher intake, that aggressive intake would do. Again, water is staying high. And one thing I do with the carbs is start adding some salt in. So this is dependent on the look. I have him sending me photos regularly throughout this week, but I do kind of a baseline amount of salt just to help kind of deliver the nutrients where we want them. And we start doing that as carbs come in. So going to Tuesday, even with the first day of carb up, his body soaked it up and dropped again from 148.4 to 148. And these are May 22nd. Yep. So this is like depletion. And then, yeah, this is when things like, look at that. That's crazy. Just insane. Insane. So here, May 23rd. So that would have been 2 days out, the Thursday. Seeing that pop, right? Obliques are tighter for sure. Good vascularity. 23rd. There we go. Back shot, right? So good detail across pretty much every muscle in his back. So we're seeing things start to fill up a bit, which is good. So on the Thursday, I opted to bring carbs up even more. So another 50, went from 280 to 330. And you could see my note right here. It looked really good at the end of the day. Which where's that? Oh, I must have those in my DMs. Yeah, I don't have them. But anyways, so 330, and then I believe 1, 2, 3. So I added a bit more salt on this day as well, just because I wanted to make sure we were getting the result we wanted. And then weight finally stabilized after 2 days of loading up carbs. And then this is nuts. Another day, did 330. You can see I crossed out his protein there just because I wanted to drop protein down a little bit just to give his body, more opportunity to take in the carbohydrates. Salt is still high, water is still high. And then from Friday to show day, he dropped again from 147 or from 148 to 147.4. So again, a drop, right? So his body was just soaking those things up. Obviously, depending on the visual and the scale, these days will vary, but his body was just going nuts. It was just soaking it up. So then show day, there was no show. Well, there was a show in the morning. The open show was in the morning. The natural show was in the afternoon. So he actually wasn't on stage till around 3:30, and then they just did finals right back to back. So on show day, depending on timing, this obviously varies a lot, but pretty much the goal is to load him up more as needed. So depending on how he looked in the morning, which let me see if I have. So that was Friday, right? So we're seeing after that first coat of tan, seeing things shape up pretty well. And then this is in the morning on show day after I think 2 meals. So again, we're seeing that response. Yeah, so he had those 2 meals. That photo was a little after 11 a.m. So he had these 2 meals in him by now. By that time, he had 3 liters of water, a little over, what's that there? Five, six, like 120, 130 grams of carbs. Added more carbs after that with some salt. And then, so here on the side, I made some notes. We did another 57 grams of carbs with rice and honey and some salt at 2 o'clock. And then another 43 grams of carbs with Cheerios and salt at 3:30. And then I think he was on stage around 4. So around 300 grams of carbs before the stage, plus these little concoctions before. So yeah, I hope that gives y'all some insight as to how this all come together. These are iPhone shots, so they're not the best of quality. See if one of these, yeah, you can kind of see it. Man was shredded. He was absolutely diced. Couldn't have been happier with the look that we brought to the stage. So yeah, guys, I hope this helps. I hope I didn't ramble on too long and this was not overly hard to follow, but this is what we did. This is how we brought him to the stage, and from that depleted flat look to that juicy bursting at the seams look on show day, and obviously super stoked with the result. And here we are as of recording this 2 weeks out from the next show, and we're going to bring it even better. So thank you guys for watching. Obviously, subscribe if you liked what you saw here. Drop a comment if you have questions. Obviously, I will answer them. Be happy to. And if you're interested in coaching, cheap coaching plug, hit me up on Instagram. It's Leroy_Rollins_fitness. Looking at probably, I don't know really anybody that's going to compete in the fall. If you are going to compete in the fall, you better be in good shape now because you're running out of time. But if you're looking to compete next year or beyond that, feel free to reach out and we can have a conversation. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.